welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE, and today's guest is here to drop gems for the underdogs and the up-and-comers in the world of sales. Bryan Charleau is the author of Pitching Sales, a no-fluff guide built for those just getting into the game. He's not about flashy techniques. He's about real mentorship, real fears, and real breakthroughs. Whether you're a new rep, a content creator trying to sell your brand, or a coach looking to build confidence in your offer, Bryan's got insight for you. So let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Bryan Charleau.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine, man. I'm excited, man. So,
Me too.
Where did your sales journey begin, and how different was it from what you expected?
Oh, I'm getting close to 15 years now in the sales game, and when you look back, I'm not sure if it feels like 40 years or 2 years when you kind of see all the ups and downs that come with it. But I actually started kind of some business to customer sales when I was in university, just trying to make a quick buck. I looked at it more of as a job than a career at that time. And then when I finished up university is when I really got an opportunity to look at it more as a long-term future. But even then at that time, it still took a few years before I actually looked at it like it was something I wanted to be in full time. So it was a few years before that switch actually happened. So yeah, about 15 years now.
So can you remember what was like your first major stuck moment in sales? Like where like you were like, how am I going to overcome this?
Yeah, it happens pretty much on, well, I wouldn't say day one. Day one, you have this fearless ignorance in you where you just are out there like kind of like a dog on a leash, and you finally get let go, and you feel like you have the preconceptions aren't always there, or not as fearful as you think. And you go and you start talking to people, and you start thinking this might be easier than what it is. And then after a lot of no's and a lot of hesitation starts to creep in, objections that you don't know how to handle happen, you go home empty-handed, your paychecks are small because there's no commission on it. And that's when doubt starts to creep in. And that's when you start having that, like, what did I actually get myself into mode? Or is this an actual long-term career for me? Like I said, it doesn't happen day one, but it doesn't take too long to realize that it's a lot more than luck that goes into this, and a lot more than numbers. It's a whole strategy and learning and evolution that goes into being really good at this.
So like, I could imagine, was there ever a point where you thought this isn't for me? Like I'm not cut out to do this?
Yeah, actually, like a year and a half into my first job out of university, I left sales. I wasn't in the greatest situation. My training and onboarding wasn't great. I could make up 1,000 excuses as to why it didn't go great, but people face that every day. And people that are been in sales for 40 years and made an entire career face these same mindsets that went into it. But I actually left, and I didn't think I was going to get back into it. I had looked at I was thinking about going back to school, and then it really just happened to be I got an opportunity. It was a little bit crazy looking back at it. But maybe that fearless ignorance jumped back in and made me want to get back in the ring and try this again. Luckily, I was met with a much better situation, much better onboarding, much better manager situation. And I was able to really flourish and learn, and then, build that momentum from there. But I actually left, and I see it happen all the time. I see really good people that might and could be good at sales leave because of a certain specific environment or situation and not come back. I just got lucky that I found the right one and it worked for me, but this is happening daily to new and old salespeople all the time. We're fighting this day by day, year by, when that quota resets on January 1st, we fight it every year.
So what helped you push through early rejection or self-doubt?
The thing is at first, I wish I was that type of person. I could say I didn't have that, or when I did face it, I just blew right through it, and I knew that eventually I would get it. I didn't have that type of personality at the time, and I think the majority of people don't. There are those lucky few who really just can grow that callus really quickly and get through it. But realistically, you have to sit in it it's like anything. You have to feel it. You have to recognize that you're start to fight yourself. You're not fighting prospects. You're not fighting prices and shipping and all these other objections you want to tell yourself. That's the reason that you're maybe not succeeding as quickly or as well as you'd like to. You have to sit and realize I'm actually fighting myself. I'm the person who's maybe not picking up the phone as much. Maybe I'm the person who's hesitating to ask somebody because I've got a pre-notion that they're going to say no, or this person's too busy, or this person doesn't have the money for it, or whatever number of things it is. And until you actually face that, talk about it, find a good mentor, somebody within the workplace, somebody within the profession, a book, a podcast, it could be any number of things that really help you face what you're actually feeling and overcome it. Like that happens in any number of careers. Sales is not exempt from it. So that's what I did to get over it. I had to actually realize, like, hey, I'm actually nervous. I'm fearful of going to work every day. I'm fearful of hearing these rejections. I don't know if I know the answer when they ask me about this or that. And then once you realize that and you're honest with yourself, then you can start to move forward. And that's what I did. And that's what I was able to really start to see the success that I was hoping for.
What is something the world taught you about sales that textbooks didn't?
You have to, like, sales isn't just this concept of going out and selling and then moving on and selling something else. And this hop, skip, and a jump to all these things. Sales is an entire process. Sales isn't luck. There's luck involved. It happens. It's like anything. Think of it like, I always say, it's kind of like poker where they say, it's luck on what you're dealt. Not necessarily. There's a whole mentality and practice and skill that goes into these things that as the average person doesn't really realize until they're in it. And that's why you see the same people being successful over and over again. It's not luck. And that's something that I think people have that preconception of. And once you actually learn the insides of sales and the process and the work it takes and the behind the scenes, this isn't a 9-to-5 job. If you go into sales thinking it's a 9-to-5, then you're just not going to be successful. And I always relate it back to you're going to have some success, but you're not going to reach that upper echelon that you probably want to be in. And I relate it a lot to athletics, and I actually credit a lot of that to my athletic background before I got into sales. The people that are successful on game day didn't just show up to practice and get good. They spent time after practice. They went to the weight room. They watched game film. They're doing all these things that you don't see, and it doesn't just happen chance come together on game day. It's all this behind the scenes stuff, and I think sales correlates with that so perfectly. And I don't think that's what people realize until they're in it, and then they start to see that success with that extra work they're putting
in. Actually, yeah, absolutely. Who do you someone you consider a mentor, or who do you wish had mentored you when you were starting out?
Oh, when I was starting, I definitely wish I had some of the mentors I had later in my career. And that's a lot of the reason why I wrote the book to begin with, is because I know there's workplaces and environments where there aren't good mentorship for people that are looking forward and need it. And I was just trying to give back a little bit, just a little guide, a little playbook. Like you said, no fluff. This is the reality of sales. If you want to get into it, you can be successful, but this is the harsh reality of it. It can be as fruitful as you want to make it. And this is kind of the first steps to do so. But I actually had to lean a lot on my previous athletic career and some of the coaches that I had that believed in me, that knew that it might have taken a little extra work and a little bit of staying after practice and a little bit of that's where I had to dig into to actually overcome these things that I had, until I got into the environment where I had people that saw the potential, people saw the work I was putting in. Like I was spinning my wheels, but I was working really hard. I was treading water and I was kicking and just keep my head above. And I think people started to recognize that. And these people that had been in the company for 20 plus years threw out the life buoy and said, okay, I see that you're working. I see that you really want to be successful. Let me give you a few tips on how to help. And that's kind of the lifeline that I was given by some of these people. And that's sometimes what it takes. They need to see that you're working hard. And if they do, like I said, I always say, like, no experienced leader in your company is going to see you twiddling your thumbs in the corner and come want to help you. They want to see the person that's working, and they want to see that person that might just need a little break to get to that next step. And that's hopefully what I showed to get that. And that's what I also try to give back.
That first stretch in sales is rough for most people, but you found your groove. So let's talk about how you're helping others find theirs now. So what inspired pitching sales, and what gap were you trying to fill in the sales world?
Yeah, that's a two-part answer to that, because I think that's a really good question. It was like 10 years in, like maybe 8 to 10 years in, when I was with this company, I actually started to see the success, and knowing that I had left the profession and I knew all these things that I had done. But when you start getting behind the scenes with a lot of good, successful salespeople, you start to realize, and you're in a joking matter 10 years later, but you start to talk about your first couple of years in sales. And it seems like everybody's got a horror story, or everybody's got a boss or a manager, a company, that almost led them out of the industry. And that's kind of when it clicked on me. It was like, it wasn't just me. This is literally everybody. And to the second part of that, where you're asking where the gap is I love reading sales books. I love reading self-help books, motivational books, all kinds of stuff. I don't read them as much. I do Audible quite a bit. There's a lot of windshield time in my job, and that's when I like to consume this. But all these sales books, they kind of talk about the start of getting into sales, but it's like a chapter of it. Realistically, what they're trying to do is get you, I always say they're trying to get you from like great to excellent or good to great. They're not filling the gap of that first year. It's almost glossed over, like, well, since you've made it this far, here's a great sales book with great information. But if you don't get to that place, you might not understand or be able to consume this. So if I'm 3 months into a sales job and I'm struggling and I don't know where to turn, and I can't find good mentors, or maybe they're not teaching or training something that clicks with me, and I read this great sales book, well, what good is knowing how to close a sale if I'm scared to pick up a phone? Like, what good is this if my fears are well before what you're talking about? It's kind of useless. So that's the gap I was trying to fill, is dedicating an entire book to that first year and a half, that proverbial hump you got to get over. Then I actually talked about at the end of it is like, now I actually list, 10 or so really good sales books. Like, well, now that you're over at this point, now is maybe time to start consuming these things. Because if you consume it on day one, it's going way over your head and you can't apply it at all. Whereas I try to give that stuff that you can apply the next day, on your second week of sales.
So how do you coach people to overcome the fear of hearing no?
Well, half the time you just have to be straight with them and be like, you have to find out what their fears are. Is it the rejection of it? Is it that you're going to feel embarrassed if you're told no? You're going to feel embarrassed by your coworkers around you, your manager. You're going to feel like you weren't successful. Are you fearful of screwing up in front of the customer? Are you fearful that the promises you make aren't going to be delivered? Like, you have to break it down and peel back a few more layers of it. Then once you're able to kind of isolate what it might be, then you're starting to attack it, and you can personalize the information you want to give to them based on that, because it's not a one answer fixes all with these scenarios. But as I said, most of the time it's allowing them to accept no is going to be the answer 95% of the time, especially when you're starting. Because when you think about it, you've worked your entire life on avoiding no's and avoiding rejections. That's just what's built into your human anatomy with an evolution of your brain is not hearing no's and finding ways to avoid that, whether it be in relationships, career-wise, educationally, all these things. Whereas in sales now, you have to almost reset your mind to to understand you're going to hear no all the time, and use that almost as motivation and acceptance, and then moving forward and getting to the next step of, because you need tangible situations to actually learn in sales. You can't read it all in a book. You have to take it and apply it and actually hear real life objections and be told no right to your face and not let it ruin your day, and hear objections over and over again so you get better at responding to them and moving further along in the sales process. So it's just these little things to make sure that they know it's not the end of the world to hear no, because the greatest, if you can think of any iconic salesperson, they've been told no thousands of times. So you being told no is not the end of the world. And once you kind of start moving forward from there, but it's baby steps.
What makes your approach different from the average sales book or sales trainer?
It's not necessarily different. It's just not sugar-coated. And I find a lot of, again, it's a lot of sales books.
When you say sugar-coated, what do you mean?
Hey, this sucks. You're going to get told no a lot of times, and you're going to doubt yourself, and you're going to see really small paychecks, and you might have to eat ramen noodles for an extra month while you pay rent because you're not making commissions yet, because you're just not there yet. And one of the biggest valuable things that I try to instill in them, especially if they're coming from a different industry and different world, is that, and I was actually, it's in the book, it was given to me by a really successful salesperson that's kind of within my network called Dave Rothenberger. Time does not equal money in sales. At the beginning, you might be making less than minimum wage as you put in this work behind the scenes, and you're doing quotes late into the night, and you're up in the morning, and you're listening to books instead of your Spotify, and you're doing these things. You're putting in 12 hours a day. When you go to the office, and a really successful person who's been there for 15 years is putting in 2 hours at the office, and then they're going out and actually meeting customers and doing things remotely, because they've gotten past that point. You're not there yet. So in order to get there, though, you have to work 12 hours a day, even though the office only pays you for 8. So there's just so many, and there's no sales book out there for the most part that's going to tell you that. So, and it's a reality that people don't know they're going to face when they get into it. So that's kind of the and if you don't want to do it, then maybe sales isn't for you. But if you're willing to, and you want to be yourself, and you think that you can, can be the most fruitful career out there.
What's one underrated mindset shift you teach your new reps?
That the worst case scenarios, no. Like literally, I've never been thrown down a flight of stairs. I've never had the floor fall out at me and I fall into a pit of snakes when a customer didn't want what I was selling and offering them. You walk out, you collect yourself, you learn from it. That's the other thing. Like for every no, not every no. Sometimes you meet people and they say, just get out of my face. No, I'm not. I could have been offering them a free bag of money and they wouldn't take it because they just are saying no matter what. But most of the time you can take something away from a sales call with a no. And so figure out what that is. Say, hey, have I heard that objection before? Actually, no, he kind of worded it differently. Maybe it caught me off guard. Maybe I can take something from it and reapply that and put it in the brain bank and for the next time. But again, the worst case is literally, they might throw a profanity at you every now and then if you catch them on a bad day, but that's the worst case scenario. And the fact is, you can't dwell on it because by the time you've reached the exit, they've moved on to whatever they're doing next. You're gone. You're out of sight from their mind. So don't let it ruin your day or your next call because they're not worried about it. And it's not personal. And that's the mindset that I really try to instill, because the sooner you learn that, the quicker you're going to progress.
So how does your book balance practical tools with emotional intelligence?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I say is you can't flip a switch when you leave for your sales job, or you shouldn't. I really try to preach the fact that any personality, any type of person can be successful in sales. Like it literally starts with your own personality and foundation and integrity. So you shouldn't be flipping a switch when you walk out the door and try to turn into somebody else that you're not. So the habits that you should be trying to instill and balance in your career should spill over and create this cycle within your own life. Like, you know, if you're at a restaurant with your significant other and something doesn't go your way, you get told no, whatever it is, that should just start to kind of be water off a duck's back in some sense with your emotional stability. And when you have disagreements, being able to keep calm, cool, collected, and get your thoughts out properly. Like it's this whole balance in life. I have a whole section in habits that you should be doing outside of your work to help better both. One is sleep, one is physical activity, one is organization, being punctual. All these things that you need to be successful in sales are proper habits to instill in your own personal life. And you should become a better, because I guarantee if you're not organized in your day-to-day, it's going to be really tough to be like, oh, but I'm super organized at work and I'm constantly punctual for my work meetings, but I'm never on time, you know, for my kid's soccer game. Like you should be able to tie it all together. And that's then it becomes second nature and you're not becoming somebody else. The more genuine you are in sales, the more people are going to see it and really react to that positively. And it should really help your behind the scenes relationship with your family, your spouse, your parents, your in-laws, whoever it may be. It should really be a nice balance for you.
But what kind of feedback are you hearing from young professionals using your book right now?
A lot of them are reaching out. Like especially when I was just launching it, I gave it to about 20 plus within my network, and they're like, I have something similar. Like they all had a story to tell me about what they went through, and I think what you forget is, like, even for me, like it seems almost surreal, the stories I kind of went through at my first couple of jobs when I look back like 15 years later. But this is something real that somebody's going through today. Somebody today just had, you know, a bad day at work because they're struggling and going through it the same way 15 years ago I was having those days. And the same other person on my network who read the book, they had these spells of bad days. So I think it's just kind of the people going through it right now don't realize that every single successful salesperson has these events in their career. They think that people just showed up one day and started selling and they were just great at it. And, you know, either the term like, oh, you were born to be a salesperson, and, oh, you can talk, you should be in sales. That's a small part of it. And those people probably doubted themselves in their first year and had a situation where they thought about leaving and starting a different career. It wasn't for them. Or even some of these people, they've been in it for 3 years and they have this amazing success, and then they flop. They have a year, they don't make commissions, and you're constantly second guessing yourself. And the quicker you can get out of that rut, the better you're going to be, because the longer you sit in that valley, the more it festers, the more the doubt, it just gives that time for more and more self-doubt, because you're always fighting yourself. And that's, again, what this book is trying to do, and what people really resonate with is, yeah, I felt that. I went through that. I know exactly what you're saying. Here's, you should hear my first job. This is what my manager was like those type of things. And I think people need to hear that. It's comforting to know, like, okay, yeah, people have gone through this and they got out of it and they've been successful from it.
Yeah, it's good to be able to share stories, and it benefits other people, because now they listen to your story and they're like, man, I experienced something similar to that.
Mm-hmm. Or they're going through it right now.
Yeah.
And they need to hear that, just to get them out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've made a solid impact already, but I know there's a lot more on the horizon. Let's talk about where you're headed next. What's next for pitching sales? Any workshops, speaking tours, or digital products in the works?
Yeah, right now, because I am, I still balance my own career while
Yeah.
I'm doing this, right? Like I'm still an everyday salesperson. That's why I'm not looking at this from like some 1,000-mile view of what salespeople are going through, because I'm living it every day still. So it's something I am balancing with that, but I think that actually helps me, because I can tell stories that happened yesterday when I'm talking to people that are getting into this. I can talk about deals that I lost last week, or deals that I won, or deals that I'm working on, or where something went wrong in real time. And I think that helps me connect with these people that are starting out. But on the kind of next branches of this, what I do want to do is and I'm almost completed with it, is setting up an onboarding program for companies that do hire people with no sales experience, because I think that's the biggest gap in the industry, in my opinion. Because what they do is they hire 10 people every quarter and hope that one or two make it through, and then actually give them some time and attention after. Whereas instead of expecting 4 or 5 to stay and be successful and be retained, because they actually put proper training in for those individuals, instead of just looking at it like cannon fodder, like, well, if 2 of you survive, that's great, but we're going to bring in another 10 next quarter. And I think that I can really hopefully make an impact with a proper onboarding program for these people that are coming in, that are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. They just need the proper guidance and mindset early on, so they don't just get sideswiped the second they make the sales floor. Because that's what happens all the time, is you get this warm and fluffy onboarding that says our product's the greatest. You just, it sells itself. And then they get out there and they're like, what did I just sign up for?
Where do you see the sales profession heading, especially for Gen Z and new professionals?
Honestly, I think the people that apply older techniques, there's a place for both. There's a place for the new AI, virtual, social media driven. Like there's a place for all of that. But you still need to make a connection with, if you want just one-time sales, in and out, in and out, in and out, that's probably more driven for that. But if you want to make long-term residual sales and really become a staple within a company and your industry and your base, you have to still apply old school, I don't want to say techniques, but styles to interconnect and develop personal relationships with customers that are going to, when you look at a basic quota, typically your quota doesn't go down. So if you hit your quota and you had some customers that made large sales, and you're relying on them to do it, to help build on for your next year, you need to maintain that relationship. And you can't do that via email. And you can't do that by just speaking to them virtually. You have to understand them. You have to go to them. Like, again, not everybody has this. There's so many different types of sales. But if you're able to, you need to be going to see that customer, see their offices, meet their project managers, meet their foremen, meet the people that help run their business, their right-hand men, so that you can better understand them and ensure that you're maintaining that and then growing from it and adding to it, and then taking that smaller customer and building them up, because that's the only way you're going to get growth. And what I've noticed is that people rely too heavily on virtual meetings. And what happens is, well, somebody walks in their office and they need something, a phone rings, an employee comes in, 100 different things will happen to steal their attention. And when you're actually able to have that in-person meeting, whether it be a lunch, a dinner, in the office, bringing them just some coffee and sitting down with them, it just adds a connection that I really think the profession lost a little bit in the last few years. That is really important. If you want to be successful and do something that other people aren't, something as simple as that. So I think combining that, but then you can use AI and you can use these templates and, there's so much technology that you can use to save on, just tasks, like repetitive tasks, so that you can go out and actually have that connection with your customers and find that balance. That's how the people moving forward, I believe, are going to have success. They can't lose that personal connection with their customers.
Yeah, agree with you on that. How can business leaders and coaches better mentor their teams?
Well, depends on if you're talking to someone who's been in it for 10 years or for 10 minutes on how they do it. You can't treat a veteran who's been successful with kid gloves and pretend that you have to treat them the same way as the person that's only been there for 6 months or a year. It's like managing a sports team or anything. You have to learn all their personalities. You have to learn what motivates them. You have to learn, you can't just treat them across the board, because the day that you start treating a 10-year vet who is maybe a team leader or has consistently hits their numbers, and you try to bring them into the same training that you're bringing a 6-month person into, and you're wasting their time. Or you can train them to help train that person so that they're not getting the manager's perspective or the team leaders or the coach's perspective. They're getting a real boots on the ground perspective, that they're not going to, pull any punches with them and really help them in the real world too while they're out there. So there's no one way fits all, but I find the worst thing you can do is treat everybody the same. Everybody's going to have different strengths and weaknesses, and you can help somebody who's really strong over here and kind of mesh it with somebody who's weak in that, and actually have them help each other instead of you spending your time trying to teach everybody. Like, spread the wealth. Somebody's going to get stronger by teaching somebody and helping them, and take pride in that as well. And then you might have somebody on your team who doesn't want to deal with any of this stuff. Maybe they're not as much of a team player as you wish they were. But if you try to force them into doing something they don't want to do, it could have a negative effect on somebody who's 6 months in and put a sour taste in their mouth. You really have to learn to read people. And if you are really good, and if you have gotten to your position because you're good at that, you should be able to find that balance.
What's the legacy you want to leave as both a sales mentor and a human being?
Well, I hope that people understand two things. Is one, that it genuinely, the profession sometimes outside of it gets such a bad negative connotation with it, because every person seems to have a bad experience with a salesperson at some time, whether they were buying a car or a refrigerator or a couch or whatever it may be. Maybe they got approached at a mall when they didn't want to deal with that person. They were having everyone remembers 2 or 3 bad experiences. And what I find is the people that are really good at sales, to the person outside of sales, doesn't get credited with that, because it's so smooth. It's so, from an integrity standpoint, so customer forward, so like, I'm here for you, that they don't even realize how good that salesperson is. And they don't associate that with good sales. They just figure they went out there, they found the best product for them, and it fit their need, and it got rid of their pain point, and on they go with their day. But it was that salesperson that was the linchpin to this whole thing coming together. And I think I don't need to prove it to, or people in sales don't need to prove it to those people that, hey, there's good salespeople. And it's the people coming into the industry that, hey, like, there's more good people than bad in this industry. The negative connotations you see they're out there. You can't avoid them. But the majority of the people within this profession are trying to help the customer. They're trying to help the company. They're trying to provide for their family. They're trying to provide for their loved ones. And they are willing to help you if you show the effort and reciprocate the appreciation and the work that they need from you in order to implement this and keep this ecosystem balanced. So that's one thing that I want to show people coming into this profession, because the last thing I want is some person with bad intentions getting their hooks on a new person and really displacing the reality of sales to them and taking advantage of them and again reinforcing that negative connotation that some people may have. And then after that, I want the people that I help to pay it forward later if they're able to find the same passion for sales, the same, hopefully they find success, hopefully they write a book, hopefully they help somebody within the company, but hopefully they pass it forward to keep this going down the road, because we need as many good salespeople in the profession as possible, because that not only helps us, it helps the consumer, it helps the end user, and it helps the businesses that are creating these products that are solving people's problems.
Absolutely. Well, Bryan, we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can get the book, everything.
Well, I appreciate that. But as you mentioned a few times, so the book is Pitching Sales, a complete guide to becoming a sales profession. And I'd like to think that, yes, it is great for any person entering the sales profession, but honestly, it's life stuff in there. It's overcoming adversity. I talk about I'm coming from a place like I've been through this, and I know it's not easy. I know it's hard, but you can get through it, whatever it is that you're facing. You can reach out to me. I run my own Instagram account for it at Pitching Sales and Pitching Sales at gmail.com. If you want to reach out, you have any questions, I'm literally I'm here to help as many people as I possibly can, because people help me, and I'm paying it forward the way that I hope others pay it forward after they find success and they get their feet under them. So, whether it's helping one person or 10 people or 100, it doesn't matter to me. That's all I'm hoping to do on a day-to-day basis as well.
All right, Bryan, thank you so much for being such a great guest. I greatly appreciate you stopping by and sharing stories and I would love to have you back on. Definitely have you come back on and share some more stories. But thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I think I listened to a few of the podcasts that you've done in the past, and I think you're really trying to. I see the same thing, that you're trying to help people and provide content that people can resonate with and learn from. And I think you're doing a really good job with this, and so I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you, man. It actually, so this is the second episode. I've kind of changed the format a little on the way I ask questions and stuff, and it's just with time I've just improved more and more. Like I just feel the show improves each and every day because of putting in the work, putting in the work and wanting to improve and wanting to learn it and going out and seeking the knowledge to help me find the proper mics, the camera, what software to use, but it took me wanting to improve, because this wasn't my profession. I wasn't in media. I'm a pit boss in a casino, so this wasn't my lane. But once I started podcasting and I found my voice, my purpose, it was something like, oh man, I love this. I love having these conversations. I'm learning so much. I've launched my production company. We've published a few books now. We've done so many different things, and it started just with the podcast.
Well, I think, just as an example on how this stuff and this information can flow through so many different industries. When you ask me, like, what is a a preconception that somebody getting into sales might not know about. If somebody came up to you and said, well, I want to start a podcast because I want to interview somebody, probably the best advice you can give them is, yeah, sure, that's part of the scope that you actually get to see. But behind the scenes, you're looking at video quality, you're looking at audio quality, you're looking at editing, the time. You don't just hit stop record and then it's out there. Like, there's so many different, creating your brand, naming things, and how you're going to describe the podcast. These are things that somebody not in the industry hasn't maybe thought of. So if they came to you, you would be able to provide that so they're not sideswiped when they got out there. And you sometimes forget the knowledge you've picked up over the time that you've been doing this.
Yeah.
And, somebody would be so better served to come up and have a sit down with you for an hour about starting a podcast than just trying to go do it blindly, getting frustrated and leaving, when they might have a really good idea for a show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if it wasn't for the fact that I fell in love with podcasting, right, I don't think I would have dove into it like the way I did. I don't think I would have wanted to YouTube University and started looking up different things and just wanting to improve and learn. And so when I decided to really focus the podcast on speaking to coaches and entrepreneurs, and it was something that was interesting to me. It was something that I wanted to learn, because coming from where I come from, we're not taught about business. We're taught about going to a 9 to 5,
clocking in, clocking out.
Yeah. And once I got a taste of entrepreneurship and doing stuff like, I work my 9 to 5, but I also have my side business that I work to the point where eventually I'm able to fire my job. So,
yeah, it's like I said, you sometimes, unless you actually step back and think about it, you don't realize what you've consumed and how you can help.
Yeah.
And sometimes you kind of get that imposter syndrome on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, can I really help somebody? And the answer is usually yes, if you can do it in the right way. And that's, again, I think you're trying to do that. I'm trying to do that. There's a lot of people out there trying to do it. And there's a lot of people that need and would like to help if they came across it.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, man, for being such a great guest, man. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But once again, man, thank you, man. You've been a wonderful guest.
I appreciate you having me. I had a great time. Thank you.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, man. Thank you. All right, everybody, another great episode. If today's convo fired you up, do me a favor, share it with one person who's stuck but ready. And if you're really about growth, subscribe, leave a review, follow the guest. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. You're not stuck. You're just one decision away. Stay real, stay hungry, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.